Hi everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present in front of you and to still be here after a long and very interesting day. My name is Maxime Krivian and I'm the co-founder of Celsius. Celsius is a smart wearable cooling device that helps you cool down when you need it. It's becoming quite apparent that heat is going to be at the center of climate change adaptation as well as maintaining our goals for net zero. Heat has been listed as one of the top 8 risks for people's health, well-being and productivity by the IPCC. It's actually estimated that already 2 billion people suffer from heat-related issues, especially people living in cities. And this means that it's going to double our cooling demand by 2035. And that's pretty bad news because our existing cooling solutions are not adapted. They're not adapted to people's needs, but they're also not adapted to the environment. Just to give you an example, in the UK, 10% of our total energy consumption is spent on cooling buildings. And that's the UK with the weather we all know. So that bears the question, why cool a whole building or a whole room when you could just cool yourself? Our solution is Celsius, a smart wearable cooling device that is worn on the wrist. It works by applying cold to the inside of your wrist, which is one of the most thermally sensitive areas of your body. And it triggers safe, natural, and proven mechanisms that help you cool down both physiologically and psychologically. We're building a device that will also be supported by smart functionalities, including heat tracking, so the device will be able to detect when you're overheating or about to have your thermal comfort disturbed, and automatically activate itself in a tailored way that will maintain your thermal wellness. We'll also build an app that will support the device and provide further thermal management functionalities. This innovation can have many applications for the space of climate change adaptation. Women going through menopause who suffer from hot flushes, people suffering from thermal discomfort, anyone in the tube later today, industrial workers who are very much at risk when it comes to climate change and increased heat, as well as elderly people whose lives are literally at risk during heat waves. For Celsius, our first application and focus is going to develop an efficient and affordable solution for menopausal hot flushes. Menopausal hot flushes are a serious problem. 80% of women going through menopause experience hot flushes. That means that eventually 80% of half of the world's population will go through hot flushes. They can be extremely debilitating and have a huge impact on social, personal, and professional life. This leads to a staggering 1 in 10 women quitting their jobs because of menopausal symptoms, such as hot flushes. Unfortunately, there aren't many great solutions. There's not a wide array of options for women to combat hot flushes. Most options rely on hormonal treatments or supplemental treatments. This is where I think Celsius can be a great application to help tackle this. And then, proving the case for menopausal hot flushes, which is one of the most intense and harshest demonstrations of thermal discomfort, move on to other targets like industrial workers, like elderly people. The good news is we're not the first one. There's 2 products in the market, the 2 you can see in the middle of this graph, and we're learning from their flaws. In a sense, and very quickly, they're both inefficient at cooling, at providing effective cooling relief, which kind of defies the purpose, and they're also very expensive, between 200 to 300 pounds, which will price out a lot of people. Our goal is to build the most effective solution for cooling relief, but also the most affordable. Our RRP for a Mark 1 product will be around £100. Celsius was founded by myself, a humble former R&D entrepreneur, and Angus O'Donovan, who's a former Dyson and Formula 1 engineer, and he's a specialist in thermal comfort, personal thermal comfort, and heat transfer. We're also gathering a team of advisors around us, and especially very experienced female engineers who are going to help us develop and design the product for the right targets. To this date, we've developed a first prototype that's demonstrating already the technological superiority of our system. We've received support from BUPA, the big healthcare group, who's invested in our company, but is also providing ongoing support with us to develop the product. So, for example, we're currently planning user trials in July with menopausal women working for BUPA in their offices across England. That's actually very, very exciting and scary prospect. And eventually, there's conversations about BUPA perhaps being our first client. We've received support from various accelerator programs, notably the CRL, which is the biggest hardware-based and focused accelerator programs in the UK. And they've supported us with engineering resources to finalize our second prototype, which is going to get us much closer to a final prototype and a first product. Our business model at first will be, I guess, rather simple, based on product sales, drawing a margin of about 50 to 60% per unit sold, targeting B2B sales, B2B partnership within the health and wellness sector, and B2B direct sales. But we're also seeing a lot of opportunities to drive extra revenues through through a subscription service, or through advertising a data via an app that is used. But that gives us a good basis to have a healthy financial model. We're currently fundraising or pre-seed. We're seeking £250,000. We're fully SCIS and EIS approved, and we've not spent much of it. And with this investment, we'll have a runway of 18 months that will enable us to finalize the R&D, get the DFM, so the manufacturing readiness and tooling built, file our patents, and essentially launch to the market. And I think that summarizes it. So thank you very much for your attention and listening, and have a good evening.
While we're doing the tech. Hi everyone, I know it's really late and everyone's tired, but I'm Chloe, I'm the founder and CEO of Lower, and I'm here to talk to you about what we do here at Lower. We are currently raising, so if anybody is interested in getting involved, then do find me afterwards. I'm in the oversized shirt dress. Hopefully, fingers crossed, the presentation will work. Hi to everyone. So welcome to Lower. We are Lower, and we talk about, I guess, joining us on our mission to lower impact globally. Heard some really, really interesting talks today about all of the things that businesses can do, I guess, and governments can do. For this presentation, we're thinking about individuals. So a couple of individuals up there. Why do we set up the business? So back a while ago, I had 2 heart operations and an ectopic pregnancy and 2 pregnancies within the space of a very, very short amount of time. I woke up on the operating table whilst having a heart operation. I do not recommend that to anybody. But in that moment, it definitely gave me a kind of, I need to change my life, something needs to change kind of moment. And I'd actually been in Argentina for my honeymoon and had 12 steaks in 14 days. We purposely chose Argentina because it had great steaks and great dolce de leche ice cream. Again, I do not recommend that because it ended up on a hospital table. But it did give me that sort of like, what do I want from my life? What do we want to do that's different? And it definitely gave us the impetus really to start Lower. So in terms of the problem that we are solving, so there's definitely a problem out there, which is that ultimately organisations are constantly struggling to lower their carbon footprint, and we're just going to use carbon footprint as a kind of catch-all term for the moment. There definitely are solutions they're already working on. They're looking at their supply chain, they're looking at their raw materials, they're looking at the manufacturing processes, but they are not necessarily looking at their people as walking, talking carbon emitters. So if we take IKEA, for example, who's one of the people that we're talking to, they have 220,000 employees globally. That is not even a small town in the UK if you think about the cumulative impact that those individuals make. And at the same time that we're having companies having this sort of moment where they need to reduce their carbon footprints, they need to be hitting all of their net zero goals. And guess what? Employees, customers and fans are also having that light bulb moment. They're also voting with their feet. They do not necessarily want to work for a company that is not sustainable. And actually there's something which we haven't talked about today, I don't think, which is the rise of the climate quitter, where 1 in 5 employees actually are actively not taking a job if they do not align to their ESG goals. And companies are actually fairly unaware of this because guess what? They're not even clicking on that job ad to begin with. So there's 2 huge things that are happening, and we are here to hopefully solve that. So Lower is the only platform that allows organisations to lower their carbon emissions even further by capturing the CO2 savings from people. How do we do that? I'm going to whiz through this really quickly. So we inform. So ultimately, we help really bring and democratise that sustainable information to the individual. So we do that through We do that through facts, we do that through articles, we do that through constant content, make it engaging, we make it fun. We talk about being carrot, not stick. We inspire, so we have lots of planet-friendly recipes. We try and make things super, super easy for the average individual. And I think we are not the average individuals in this room. We are talking about people who are working night shifts at Tesco's. We're talking about people who are working on oil rigs. We're thinking about people who have got 5 children at home. They do not have time to necessarily think about this. They are focused on their own daily lives. They're not necessarily thinking about sustainability. So how can we bring micro moments to them to help them embrace a more sustainable life? We do that through incentives. People love incentives. And guess what? There's also another thing, which is that companies who are offering sustainable products and services also want to access this audience. I used to be head of commercial of a very large sort of media outlet, and ultimately this audience is really, really difficult to buy against from a media perspective. So from what we're doing is we're actually giving those brands access to an audience who just want to slightly reduce their impact down. They are not people who are identifying as vegans on Facebook. They're not following sustainable influencers on Instagram. They're very, very difficult to get to. And then we are able to demonstrate that impact. So really importantly, we're able to demonstrate that impact back to the individual. So in terms of the impact that they have made, but also back to the company that has paid for it. Why us? Because we're beautiful and fantastic. What's our revenue model? So ultimately we charge companies. That's essentially the first and the largest part of our revenue model. We do also get revenue in from partnerships and live events, and also from affiliates, although that's only ever going to be capped at around 10% of our revenue, and also our anonymized aggregated data. In terms of our traction, so we set up back in 2020. I left my full-time job in 2021. We received investment last year, built the MVP. Our first checks in were from Uber and from Lacoste. We then launched to Stella McCartney, to Pop Sockets globally, and we're just about to launch to Watford Football Club with a really interesting brief from them, which is to actually help their employees and their fans to lower their carbon footprint. So actually what we're going to be doing is looking more at travel, because for football clubs, it's a really, really interesting piece, which is that they themselves have got quite a small carbon footprint, small number of employees, fairly small base, maybe like a training ground, but actually 20,000 football fans turn up every 2 weeks to the grounds, and they have no way of capturing that mobility issue, and they have no way of incentivizing them to not take their cars to the games. So actually, fun fact, Chelsea and Spurs, which is my club, ran a net zero game, not sure if anyone was there, back in 2021. 90% of the carbon emissions from that game was from fan travel, probably from my family who live in Hertfordshire and travel to Tottenham. So yes, we are raising at the moment. So we are seeking up to 500k. We did raise 375,000 through Sustainable Ventures and Veg Capital and some amazing global angels. We have SEIS a bit left. We've got EIS. And we'll be using the money to achieve our next runway, which is mainly focused around carbon calculators for travel and also food consumption. And that's me. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Joe. I already talked a little bit about Collie, so I'll try to be fast and sweet. My name is Joe, and I'm the co-founder of Collie. Collie has a very simple mission. We're trying to eliminate single-use and unnecessary plastic packaging in the food and drink industry. We particularly work with contract caterers and food service companies, and we're trying to essentially disrupt the 405 billion worth food and drink packaging industry in this world. We are currently working with different contract catering groups like Compass Group and Elio UK. We mostly work in large-scale sites like Citibank and NHS, Linklaters, law firms, banks, etc., etc. We started because me and my co-founder met in a Chinese opera class, and we're really passionate about eating street food, which shouldn't be a passion, but it somehow is. And what we notice is that it's almost impossible to avoid waste when you're eating on the street or if you're like really into eating out. There are like bins around, but then they don't really deal with compostables. People don't really understand compostables very well. And because I work as a food sustainability campaigner, so immediately one of the things I realized is that it is an infrastructure problem rather than a problem with the materials that's presented. So my co-founder works in the business development expert and have been working in MENA and Europe and China region for the last 6 years. So together we team up and we amassed advisors such as Julia Maclaf, who is the founder of Credit Itu, and Jamie Crummy, who is the founder of Too Good To Go. And immediately we went to work to try to come up with a secure and good solution in order to diverge single-use packaging waste and make reuse a thing. The problem is something everyone is very familiar with. Every year we throw away about 11 billion pieces of single-use packaging waste every single year. It is said that in 2050 there's going to be more plastic in the ocean than fish, which is a truly terrifying thought. A lot of the food service companies now are moving away from compostables. The reason being that compostables are actually more expensive than you expect. And in order for compostables to be actually composted, you need to install an additional composting kind of waste management range, which most of the people don't want to do. A lot of the people are trying to move to crockery, but then crockery get lost. So in a lot of the places we work in, they have something called a fork budget, which is just about 15% of all the forks and spoons and crockery that they lose every single month, which is hundreds and thousands of pounds. On the other hand, the regulations are really raining down from the UK government in order to push for more reusable solutions. So, for example, yesterday I was at a conference about the deposit return schemes at the EPR, and in October this year, they're going to ban single-use plastic, crockery, and other kinds of containers, so that there's now no way for compliancy. The market itself is huge. The contract catering companies that we're working with, which has more than 600,000 canteens around the world, spend about 10 billion every single year just on single-use packaging. And these are places where it is within a closed environment, such as schools and canteens, where they totally have the ability to avoid using single-use packaging. So the solution that we offer is very simple. We offer an all-inclusive solution that is based on a subscription service. And when a company signs with us, they essentially get to choose what type of reusable containers they want to use. And then we provide a tracking software, a user-facing app, so that people can easily borrow and return. And also a kind of admin backend for operations, and also in order for them to be able to get reports on their sustainability data. For example, they will be able to know how much single-use packaging they were able to divert, what kind of carbon emissions they're able to divert, material waste, water, energy, etc., etc. From a user point of view, it's very, very simple. You scan and you borrow, and then you scan and you return. And what really maintained them in this carrot and stick kind of a mentality, the carrot being you get to be earn loyalty points every time you reuse Macaulay, and that can be exchanged for different kind of rewards. The stick being that you get charged if you don't return it. So these are some examples of some of the reusables that we deploy in different places. And we make sure that they're made from single materials and in materials that are easily reused. Currently, we mostly use PP, which is polypropylene, and each one of our containers can be used more than 400 times, and compared to clamshells and other compostable options, we're anywhere from 94.7 to 98% more sustainable. Yeah, so here you can see people using and engaging with our system. Something that we really boast is that our system is very popular and has a really high stickiness. So we have a DAU/MAU ratio of about 40%, which is compared to 25% of other apps that is considered exceptional. Yeah, so this is just a snapshot of a month of usage from one of our sites. So you can see that more than 4,000 boxes can be used. Some of our very active members reuse over 180 times over a 6 month period. So it's truly something that is very habit building. I really like this quote because this is coming from one of our canteen caterers that used to use our competitors. And the reason why they really love us is because we are B2B focused, and we are very focused on building a tech so that it makes it simpler for operators to use. So this is our focus, and this is what we do the best. We already raised our pre-seed, and currently we're raising our seed round. We're almost at the end of the seed round, so if anyone wants to get in, let me know. What we'll be doing with this seed round is to able to employ more sales staff, because currently we only have one sales staff, which is my co-founder. And then also to build on the tech, because we have a lot of people on our wait list who is waiting for us to develop our technical system so that people do no longer need to use the app to borrow. And our ambition is to be able to have 200,000 users by the end of this year and to save 10 million disposables from the landfill. So are you ready to save 10 million disposables from the landfill with me?